Tonight on Veritas, we delve into a territory few dare to explore. From the mysteries of Antarctica to the ancient science of a forgotten era, tonight's journey will take us into hidden realms where truth and fantasy seem interwoven. This evening is a unique occasion as Karles Torah returns to Veritas after 6 years since his first interview with us. In that time, his path and knowledge have only deepened, and his pursuit of the unknown has remained unwavering. Who is Karles Torah? Far from a conventional explorer, Karles is a seeker of signs and a navigator between earthly and cosmic realms. His multifaceted career spans international trade and public relations, gemology with a focus on mineral energy, and fields such as applied archaeology, technology, astronomy, and numerology. Beyond that, Karles is a licensed pilot of planes, helicopters, and sailboats, and an alchemist of the modern age. Guided by his own internal biology and a quest to unite the abstract with the conscious, he continues to expand a vision that merges the self with the universe. Together, we will discuss the mysteries of quantum physics, the enigmatic myth of Tartaria, and the possibilities posed by a lost science. Are we standing at the threshold of a new era of understanding, or simply hearing echoes from a distant civilization? Prepare for a conversation that promises to challenge everything you think you know about the world and our place in it. Karles Torah returns tonight, inviting us into a universe of limitless possibilities. Welcome to the Veritas Project. I'm your host, Mel Hostelrick. If this is your first time listening, welcome home. To access tonight's full interview and all of our exclusive material, simply join the Veritas Plus family by clicking on the subscribe button at veritasproject.com. And while you're there, don't forget to check out the Veritas store for a range of great products, including focused life force energy. Experience the power of FLFE with a 15-day free trial today. No credit card required. If you're looking to get in touch with me, have a guest suggestion, or would like to provide feedback, simply click on the contact button on our website. Your thoughts and ideas are always appreciated. So sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight's program. Before we begin tonight's conversation, I want to share some context about this interview. This experience presented a unique challenge for me because almost all of our audience speaks English, while Karles, our guest, primarily communicates in Spanish. To overcome this language barrier, I use advanced technology to translate Karles's voice into English for our viewers. The same tool was applied to clone my voice for consistency throughout the interview, though you may notice a difference in the accent. While it still sounds like me, it's not quite identical. I ask for your understanding. Please focus on the content rather than the slight changes in voice. Additionally, for those of you who speak Spanish, I'm pleased to let you know that the entire interview is also available in Spanish, both in video and audio formats. You may find that watching the original version adds an extra layer to your experience. I'm sure you'll find Karles's insights deeply thought-provoking. And directly from Alicante, Spain, to discuss the mysteries of ancient science, hidden Antarctica, and many other topics, our guest today. In our second interview in Spanish is Karles Torah. Hello, Karles, and welcome back.
How are you?
Dear Mel, how wonderful to be able to be in a second interview with you. And as I promised you, let's hope that the next ones, if they come, I am already more involved in my English and we can do something in English. I promise you that too.
Congratulations. Congratulations. But I want to tell the audience how it happened. What happened during the last 6 years? I have thought about you and everything you said last time because it was a very, very good 111 episode. But a few days ago, one of our guests canceled due to vital health issues. And I was thinking, what will Karles be like? What has happened to him? And not even 5 minutes passed. Well, the day I want to contact him again, not even 5 minutes passed. You by mistake contacted me saying, hello, Melanie. And I say, I'm not Melanie, I'm Mel. He tells me, sorry, I was writing to someone else. I brought you with my thoughts. This is the second time that has happened in my podcast career. What do you think of that?
And the first time it happened to you was something wonderful, or what happened?
Yes. The first time was also a cancellation. And then I was watching a series of the Stargates on television. And I say in my head, William Henry, who is one of our guests here on the show, what would William Henry think of this? I woke up in the morning to the first email I had. William Henry's email asking, Mel, how are you? He expressed a desire to discuss Stargates on my platform. That's not coincidence, it's timing.
I believe that you have to have some type of ability or gift that you have to develop, because once it can happen, but there are already two, although they seem few, they are many times in this type of synchronicity. I think, Idemel, that you should start trying to find out inside yourself, because I think you have some very interesting power. Well,
how have you been for the last 6 years? It feels like yesterday, yet it's been 6 years. What has happened since then?
What did we talk about? If I remember correctly, I think the last time we talked would be about 2018, 2019.
That's how it is in November 2018. And you talked about the cube. You talked about Antarctica and many other things.
Yes, then what we already know happened, what I affectionately call pandemonium, so that we don't...
The pandemic.
I call it pandemonium, then the one after Demon Bread. Well, I was after the interview with you traveling a lot. I was before the pandemonium, traveling mainly through Panama, Costa Rica, Colombia, all that part of South America and Central America within what is Latin America. Mexico, Argentina, then Uruguay. I was traveling for 2 years to full until the Demon Bread arrived. At that time, even look at Mel, who was living in Panama. I moved to live in Panama because practically everything I had in terms of travel, research, etc., everything was practically the American continent. Although notice how curious, I never finished making the jump to North America, that is to Mexico, yes, but not further up, because just when I was ready to go to an event I had been invited to in Los Angeles. I no longer remember what the event was called, but it is an event that takes place every year in February, which is done half in English and half in Latin and Spanish. And right at that moment, they had invited me. They were preparing to make the leap. Pandemonium came. I went everywhere with my Spanish passport, even though I lived in Panama. And right at that moment, the lockdowns and all the things began. I was in Cali, Colombia, doing some courses and seminars and explaining some research that we were precisely about to carry out in Ecuador in the famous Cueva de los Tallos. And just then I saw the pandemonium. I tried to take a plane to return home from Panama, and they told me, no, sir, I have a Spanish passport. I can't enter Panama. You can only travel to Spain. I mean, well, nothing. We'll take a plane to Spain. I returned to my house in Barcelona. We had lockdown there. We had time to think, why? Reorganize the mind and ideas and everything, like try after lockdown, because obviously I had to end someday and see how I could continue. And in the end, well, the decision was made to stay in Spain for a season. And we have been 4 years now, 4 years here in Spain, to the point that you said very well at the beginning. Dear Mel, I found a wonderful place in the mountains of the province of Alicante. I found some fantastic towns. They're super quiet, super zen, super relaxing, which is what I needed at that time. I was looking. We bought a stone house with the family. We renovated it, and here we are, wonderful, to the point that we are even thinking of setting up a kind of holistic center, health center, research center, secret laboratory, astronomy center. So, my dear, we are at full Cotelerio.
Well, what a thing, because I was in Alicante. I'm looking. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to do it. I'm going to confess something here. What's happening in America? Well, you know, Spain is very socialist. Well, America is becoming more than socialist, communist, and one. He's always looking for where to go, and because of my parents, my grandparents, the Spanish passport is also going to help me. And Alicante was a place where I lived, which I loved, which is very, very peaceful. Not a lot of tourists like Barcelona, Madrid, and so on. And I don't know. You say you want to move here, and I say I want to move there if something happens here.
Well, it's not that I'm not telling you that I want to move to the United States. That is simply what I was telling you. I am clear that my place right now is in the mountains, and where we are more than good. I would say that much more than good. I mean, it's not a matter of changing places, but my two daughters who have already started college have decided to go to Seattle. They are already studying Seattle in Seattle at the university. They have both decided that way, and I have many contacts, increasingly with the North American countryside, with the United States, and some also in Canada, and many times in many interviews that, of course, your listeners who turned Mel are evidently listeners, the majority from the United States, our followers, our people who listen to our stories and adventures, obviously in Spanish, since there are more people who are both in Southern Europe and in everything that is Latin America, but every time, and you know it very well, there are more people in the United States, more Latinos, and more and more and more and more and more, until it reaches the point that we do a retreat every month. And we do it here where I am in the mountains, a retreat to talk about interesting things for a week. And the last two retinas were practically all Latino Americans. But in North Americans, this started to sting the bug a little bit. And start thinking, talking to people I know in Miami, in Florida, in Utah, in South Carolina, in Seattle, where my daughters are, in the state of Washington, and many people who are following us in Spanish from our channel, especially from YouTube and from Instagram, TikTok, and all social networks. And I have realized that the type of work that we transmit, the type of message that we develop, the type of information that we receive, and then give along with many surprises that I haven't told you yet, and if you want, I can tell you later, makes that I have realized, or at least that's the feeling it is for a type of people with a conscience, something different from those in Europe. I'm still thinking, and I always think so. It is true that the North American system or the European system, it is very different in many areas. In the spiritual theme, of course, in the theme of consciousness, even more so. In the theme of mysteries, of investigations, of conspiracies. Of course, yes, no. I mean, for example, to give you a clear example, not everything that is happening now you will tell me about the socialists here or the communists. What is happening with the North American elections, with Prom, with Biden, with Kamala Harris. I noticed that until the last moment I said, I believe that Gavin Newsom himself, the governor of California, will be above Kamala. I mean, I have a lot of information that comes from the North American world, but here in Europe, practically no one is interested. And when I talk about these things, I receive information that if you want, now I'll tell you how I receive it, and it's information that has a lot to do with all these issues. The American market, so to speak, is much, much more sensitive than not. The European market, which is much, much more serious, much more skeptical. He always thinks that he who says strange things is lying, that he is a charlatan because he is crazy, that he is crazy, and even that he is a fraud. I mean, they've called us about everything. Why? Because our research messages get out from the orbit in which the system in Europa. Well, he's got everybody hooked. But you know better than I do, dear. In the United States, it is very different. Even though politically the United States is now in a very complicated moment, and we will see what happens on November 5th. I think I have my ideas of what can happen. But apart from all that, the mentality, and you have a much better chance of first listening to the information you receive from different types of people. Then discern it and then make a decision whether you are interested in it or discard it. No. In Europe, this is much more complicated because people are much more skeptical. And obviously that is what you say. Either you are crazy or a phony or a charlatan, or they have even been called scammers. And I think scammers of what? Of information and data fraudsters. That is, when there is something here that doesn't suit them, they automatically close, but in the United States. You will correct me if not. My feeling, Mel, is that it's very different. There are many more possibilities and people open up much more at first. Another thing is that people then say, oysters, do I like or don't like what this man says? No, but that's kind of what I was telling you. I do want to live here. Yeah, I like the system that we have set up in the mountains with a center that we want to set up, even with bioscalar machines, Tesla, Einstein. We have biomagnetism systems. We work with decoding. We work with a lot of things. No, but the kind of people that I feel like our message is reaching is the kind of people that are in the United States. And like I was telling you, and I ended up in the last two retreats, it was filled with people from America. And I said, wow. So what my friends there are telling me is not completely misguided, and that's why when there was that error in quotes, and it is an error that evidently came from knowing where and by whom for us to communicate. When then we talked and you said oysters, let's take advantage because after 6 years it would be good for us to have a talk. I said, see, I was saying to myself, you see how right I was, and I have to try to see the possibility of them listening more to our information, our data in the United States market. Obviously, the problem is the language, no. But as I tell you, I think that if people in the United States really feel that what we talk about as information data can be interesting, have no doubt that I will work hard to speak English anyway in 3 or 4 months. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Are you listening to me now?
Yes.
I told you that there are 2 people in Alicante that I want you to meet. Dr. Mike Wilkerson, who was here on my show a couple of times, faithful friend of the show. He discusses biogeology. I know and I'm a geologist too, but biogeology is petrification of trees who have petrified. And we also have Alex Michael, who is the conspiracy music guru, who is from London and also lives there. He and Mike are friends. And now, well, we add you, the family, but what do you think? Yes, of course. And what do you think about Mike, for example? He is collecting information, and he went there in Alicante. There is a mountain. You look like an elephant. You know what I'm telling you, right? And he went up, he got in through the eye. He's a chiropractor, and he saw the whole eye, the part of the spine, everything. And the day after he got out of there anymore, Google never allowed that to be seen on Google Maps. What do you think?
Well, I'm liking the interview, dear, because what you're telling me is also part of my work and my research, because what I am is a gemologist. I am a gemologist, not a geologist, right?
Gemologist.
Gemologist. And obviously my gift, which I only have one, I don't know how to do anything else, but my great ability is to connect with stones and minerals. That is, minerals and stones speak to me. So I travel all over the world many times. I travel with a table that I call the Celestial Table, which was one of the information that I received in Antarctica from that story 6 years ago. You and I talk, and through that tablet and some stones, I connect with an oracle, with a being from another dome different from ours, from another dimension with which he is the one who gives me the information. And that being called UMSS is a name more or less, although the names of those dimensions are very different from ours, especially culturally speaking. I get a lot of information, which is what I'm trying to convey now. And part of that information speaks to you not only, as you have said very well, about those of the petrified silicon trees. Mostly large mountains that look like cut logs and connected with the ether because of the great importance of the ether in space, in the inner space of our closed dome. Because my feeling is that we're inside a closed dome. Even the Simpsons themselves have already pulled all this out. Why not? Well, that ether that really is the zero element of the theoretical table that they took it out, evidently in Mendeleev, is the great importance where all the other chemical movements have come from. That ether connected to those service trees are the ones that transported through the sound vibration ether and water through these large trunks. Giant celium trees beamed pure, clean energy across the planet. That's what they cut many years ago, but there's more, because I do agree there's a lot of mountains, which may also be ancient petrified beings, just like the trees. Right now, at the end of January, we are making a trip to Egypt. We travel to Egypt every year, and this year we have discovered a place very close to the White Desert, a place that is a mountain called the Glass Mountain. If you go online and put Crystal Mountain, it's a dragon, and on the internet, on Google, the dragon comes up, and it's a mountain, and it's a dragon. And I'm going on site to investigate, as your friend did with the Elephant Mountain near Denia, in what is the beginning of the province of Alicante. So everything you tell me about him, I'm 1,000 per 1,000, okay?
And what you say about that mountain is what you see. It looks like a very big, very long spine. Very.
Long, yeah.
Numerous dinosaurs. Here, in essence, it talks about dinosaurs, and you go to the London Museum, the New York Museum of Washington, and what you see there is a dinosaur, but they're not in geesos. Is it really this one? I don't know how it is. It's how. What do they call plaster of Paris in Spanish? Is this compressed paper? This?
Paper mache art?
That's what I mean.
Exact papier mache sculpture.
But really?
What?
Are those giants, are they fake parts or were they dinosaurs, right?
They were dragons, they were forgiveness.
Apologies, I meant dragons.
Dragons, that is dinosaurs as such. I don't think they existed. Most of what we see in museums is obviously papier-mâché or cardboard, but there can be interesting and original pieces. But were they really dragons? In the end, they ended up being destroyed, eliminated, petrified, or buried. But all the demonstrations, research, and everything we're trying to figure out always leads us to the world of dragons always.
So those little legs on top, those were wings then?
Exact. And also a very interesting thing. And as a gemologist, I can rectify it. As a professional within the homology, I am increasingly clear. And here, evidently, there may be people who can give an opinion against or in favor. But from my point of view, with my travel research, it is very clear to me what minerals are. The minerals that we find all over the world, in mountains, in caves, buried in the ground or in the open air or whatever, are part of what used to be organs of living animals that were petrified. Those are the minerals.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Mike Y.M. Walkerson has a strong connection. From what appear to be hearts, I have shortened them, and what appears to be blood, muscles, and such. How is it possible that this is all over the world and no one notices?
It's not very good. It's very well covered, Mel. In other words, we are going to see society and the current system throw us into a game within a simulator. This world is a material simulator. It is a material, not energetic holography, because evidently it is matter. As the scientist Jacobo Greenberg said very well, what is material is surely what is not real, and what we do not see, nor touch or feel. Maybe that's the real reality, right? In other words, we are totally in a world upside down, completely deceived by everything at all, for whatever reasons, by people, beings, or human or non-human civilizations. Not that. For me, it is not that important right now, but what is important is that what the human being is, that not all of us here are human beings. That's another very interesting topic. Those of us who are deceived so that we do not know the truth. Because in the end, we are on a kind of human farm. If we're in some kind of experiment and we find out absolutely nothing, and we continue to be deceived, we continue to be controlled, we continue to be deceived within a system of a society that has everything very well stipulated and placed within the board, so that the world continues like this, so that the 20 at the top continue to command, plus the many families below, plus the pyramid that goes down, and each one has its role until reaching the base, where the mass, that is that human farm, well, evidently you have it half happy with its vices, with its partners, with its routine, with its work, with its money, with its bills, with its joys, with its sports, with its music. And people are more or less amazed because they're deceived, aren't they? But what's going on? That the person who begins to wake up a little in real consciousness, no, the consciousness of the mind, which is the non-real one, because the mind is what hooks us along with the ego. And the famous me I am. That's what hooks us this game to this simulator. But there are people who have the ability, or for a reason can jump and stick their heads out a little higher and see a little more of what's not so real and what is more real. And then you obviously start moving around and talking about this sort of thing. You begin to experience, as you told me, because these types of minerals that look like organs, that you open them and it seems that there is petrified blood. Society and the system, or the elite, whatever you want to call them, are never going to let this come to light ever. And if you manage to come to light on any of these things, and I'm telling you because it has happened to us within our team, they are going to defenestrate you. As I told you, as you said, they will call you crazy. They will call you in 1,000 ways, so that obviously people laugh at you, so that the bots come out, so that the haters come out and open you up and tell you everything. And the others, when they read it in comments on the internet, they say, but if this is a crazy scammer, well, we don't hear it anymore. That's what's happening. But what do you think? We're fools. Do you think we're going to throw in the towel because there's some system where you try to silence yourself so the herd will believe you and you really are a nobody? No, obviously not. We have come here for a role. We have come for an important type of work to try to make people see that if they really have to wake up and evolve, see a little what the path is correct. It is important to understand from here, not the quantity, but the quality of beings. One has not come to awaken everyone. Why? Because not everyone has come to wake up. There are many beings, as we say many times, many human beings. I'm talking about humans, not non-humans, who don't even have a soul. They don't even have a spirit. There are people who look like robots. They look like zombies. They look like cyborgs. What do you think, that we are all the same when we see each other and cross each other on the street? I am increasingly clear that no, and I have many experiences in this regard. But there I learned that we have to look for the quality of the people who have come to this, who do need information and data, which for me is the key. Information and data, beware of misinformation, which is the other problem, because thanks to the internet, we can all connect and communicate. But also thanks to the internet, a lot of misinformation comes to us to deviate you from the authentic path. Okay, this I repeat. Again, it is game one, you have to play. And the idea is to learn the rules of the game as soon as possible to try to play in a wonderful way and be able to compete against those who do know what they are. What are the rules of the game? The elite don't care if you're a pawn all your life, if we make the simile of chess games. When a person from above, from the top of the elite, sees that you're a pawn and you're a pawn and you're a pawn and you're a pawn and you're a pawn, they don't care, but they do start to pick you up when you change pieces, when the pawn changes bishop or changes to knight or changes to rook. That's when they start to worry. Not too much, because they also worry enormously when you become king or queen. But in the meantime, if they start monitoring you because, oops, be careful, this one has already made a quantum leap right here. It hasn't needed to leave this planet, this games, this simulator, this dome or this illusion in which we are involved. But right here, he is already realizing that things are happening. So you ask me, and why do these things happen? Well, because obviously they do not want the cake to be uncovered. They want the Pandora's box that was uncovered thousands of years ago to remain open. And they do not want the precepts of the children of Noah, which are the precepts within the virtues with which the human being would have to have evolved. Don't come to a successful conclusion. And the mind, notice that the word mind in Spanish will be different in English, but how curious that you remove the word mind in Spanish from the word mind. In other words, the mind is a being of its own that is not you. Mind you, I say life is a game. If you remove the jiwayanu from the word games in Spanish, what ancient Greek is yo? What remains you ego? Ekam, in other words, the Lego self with the entity that is inside our brain is the one that controls each one of us. That's why one of the most interesting jobs that we're moving with lately is for people to understand multi-consciousnesses. It is always said that we have to understand body, mind, and soul. No, I would say it in another way: matter, energy, and consciousness, and giving importance to consciousness or multi-consciousnesses. When we are subject to a brain with a mind, with an entity that is not ourselves, dominated by that ego so powerful that we are here, placed in this body that I call perfectly. Artificial intelligence, biological human body. It's a biological mechanism of artificial intelligence. This body, when you're dominated by all this, they always win. But when one sees it from another point of view, we have possibilities to evolve. And this is where free will comes in. That is, the one who wants to continue in this game, the one who wants to continue controlled and dominated, but it seems good to him and is happy, fantastic. We don't have to wake him up at all. He has to continue in this game. But, and the one who says, No, I'm not comfortable. I have come here to learn and experience, and I want to move up a level. I need to move on from my event. So that's where you have to work with these people. Why do they deceive us? Why do they lie to us? Why do they lock everything up? Why are they attacking us so much? Crushing each other endlessly, because obviously, let 4 or 5 know that there are truths that are hidden. Nothing happens. But there are 50 crazy people on the internet, or 100,000 crazy people on the internet, beginning to wake up masses to make them understand that nothing is what it seems. Not everything that glitters is gold. So that's when they start to worry, and that's when they start going one by one to try to crush them so that people don't believe them. I think that's what's happening in this world.
I forgot to say that our audience is not even sheep. They don't do bread and circuses either, which is what most people do, sports and such. I don't want to offend anyone, but a lot of people focus too much on that. But more than anything, they are not a mind with less or a hive mentality than, as you say, artificial intelligence. But the synthetic. But you just said we're a human body of artificial intelligence. Clarify, please. How do you say we are human beings? Artificial intelligence too?
Yes, because really this body is an avatar. And if we make the simile with the film, we have it very clear. In other words, the authentic being is not matter. The real being would be the, and not the energy either. Energy is the engine. The energy is from the motor, and the body is the avatar that moves that motor, that is the energy. But there is a spirit, or there is a consciousness, as I prefer to say, that it is the original one, which is surely connected with the higher super consciousnesses, where our authentic essences or beings are. It's like we're in this puppet world. The issue is that if the puppet that we are is moved by you from another higher dimension, then that seems fine to me. The problem, and under the research that we have done, especially with channeling with A, is that many people in this world are being moved like a puppet, and it is not their being or their essence that moves them, but rather they are moved by others. And that's where the problem lies. So if we talk about multi-consciousnesses, there is a higher consciousness from outside these games of this simulator dome. Games of this material holographic gear that we are in, that they are the authentic real beings, but that for whatever reason, I don't think anyone knows. We're stuck here. Put a portion of that essence inside an artificial intelligence biological machine powered by a double brain. Because it seems that in the beginning, when we were created, the brain was only one, not like now that we have 2 hemispheres. Hence the duality. Hence the problem we have of bipolarity always appears. And because of this, we have so many conflicts, especially emotional ones. Then they acquired us, the spinal bulb, which is really the chip, which is the chip that is controlling this avatar from a quantum field and through the column of the spinal column, connecting with the famous Tondalini. It is what is manipulating this being, but the one who is speaking, the one who is thinking, the one who is feeling many times is not really yourself, but you are another type of being. And in other higher dimensions by manipulating the avatar you have here. Therefore, if we look at it from this point of view, the simile that we are a biological human body with artificial intelligence seems very, very accurate to me. Because if we also make the simile with computers, the CPU would be the brain. We have a clear understanding of the hardware and software of what it would be like inside the human body. The organs would be the different types of programs that are inside that big computer. If we make the simile of computing with the human body, the whole topic would practically fit us. It is the consciousness of the multi-consciousnesses who manages to realize that he is the one who moves from his super-consciousness. Everything this avatar is, manipulable or not, if he does, he has a chance to learn, to experiment, and possibly when this body is disconnected, to make a quantum leap and change to an obviously higher level of games. The thing is that when you have come to this and don't do it, you go through the 6 fields or 6 paths that Tibetans call the bards. When you go through the 6 bards until you reach the last one, which is the bard of becoming. You rehook yourself, the famous wheel of samsara, and you enter the same games again, whether in this world or in a similar world at the same level. So that's why I was telling you before about the importance of quality, not quantity, and what makes me sad. No, obviously it is the amount which does not have to be or want to be helped, but it is seeing more and more people that at least you see them, you feel them, and you have the feeling that they have come to do that work, and they are still too much. I would no longer say asleep, but too manipulated, which is even worse. And then part of what we try to do with all the people who talk and connect with us, especially in meetings, talks, retreats, courses, and seminars. Whether they are online or above all live, that is the best. As I was telling you, every month we do a retreat here in the mountains in Alicante, and more people come from Mexico, from the United States. And this is wonderful. What we try to do in those courses is precisely that, for them to realize that we are an avatar of artificial intelligence because we are controlled by other types of beings, not by our being, using our different types of organisms or living organs. But that there is one's own consciousness, and perhaps a person who feels that he has come to that change is interested in connecting, and that it is not easy, and it does not mean that we have the master key for a person to change from one day to another. No, I wish we did. But at the very least, we can help that person try to do in his life, in this first bard, that is the bard of life, the path of life. At the very least, try to realize the importance of connecting with yourself. Notice that in this bard, this path, there are actually 3. In these 6 paths, there are 3 that are in one's own life before dying, which are the path of life, the path of dreams, and the path of meditations. The other day, I was also talking to a friend in Miami, a Cuban friend who lives in Miami and had just come out of a weekend with Joe Dispenza. I suppose you all know Joe Dispenza in the United States. And well, obviously, Dr. Joe Dispenza is an exceptional guy. And my friend had just come out of a 3-day retreat on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And he was telling me everything. And I was telling him, you see what I've been telling you for so long, the importance of the path and path of meditation, because when you go to Joe Dispenza's talks or retreat days, part of the most important thing that the Lord Dr. Dispenza does is learn to meditate and connect with the meditations. Well, we do this. And my friend would tell me, how right you were when you told me about the meditations. And I would tell you, no, it won't be that important. What do you mean it's not important? In other words, we have to try to be true masters in meditations for good, because when you learn to meditate with different types of techniques, and each one has to use their own, not everyone serves us the same techniques and even listen to themselves. What's the cardboard called? The cardboard was also talking about this, and I heard him talk about everyone needing a different kind of imitation. Not all meditations work for everyone, and I agree. We try to provide a basis for meditations that we call the Human Meditations Plus. And from here, each one develops their own meditation, to the point that learning to meditate is very important, because when you learn to meditate, you begin not only to see the most real and clearer things, but you begin to look and see your interior, which really is the main part, and you begin to understand that the outside world you have to control because it has to be balanced. But the inner part is the most intense. And that's when you realize what it told you about the brain, when it told you that each organ is going to have its importance. There are many doctors and scientists who tell you, don't we already have 4 or 5 brains? Of course, because each organ has its own consciousness. Who's going to tell us this? Current medicine, doctors, physicists, quantum. No, scientists are not going to tell us, because imagine that they will tell us that each mineral has consciousness, that each plant has a consciousness, each animal, that even the 4 elements, earth, fire, air, and water, each have their own consciousness, that each avatar that we are has a mind with a consciousness that is not ours. That's why when I talk about multi-consciousness, I say, gentlemen, learning about consciousness or consciousnesses or multi-consciousnesses is important. And how is it done? Well, one of the most important tools is meditation. Another very important point is the other point within these first three concepts, which is the world of dreams. But to me, it seems a little more complicated that people can end up being what we call the master of lucid dreams, being able to control within dreams. Can it be done? Of course it is done. And there are people who do it. But the section and the meaning of meditation, from my point of view, because obviously I am much better at it, at least in my case, it gives me more speed and gives me more lucidity to open my eyes in the morning, get up and see everything in a different way than others see it. Plus, you connect with many things, connected with people, connected with beings, connected with food. There are people who, when they have learned this tool, talk to the trees, talk to the plants, connect with the famous apus, which are the spirits of the mountains. And in my case, thanks to this meditation experimentation, I have managed to connect with the stones. That's why when I use the oracle, from the celestial table, I place a lot of stones placed in a very special way. And through the stones, I connect with the oracle and channel with a being in a higher dimension. Look, dear Mel, a being very similar to the being I connected with. You will also meet the famous Kurigats. Do you remember that he connected with a blue being, with a blue Abiyar bird being? Well, they were not Mars, obviously, but they create a place and a dimension very different from ours. Well, I, thanks to the meditations, thanks to the connection with the stones, managed to channel when I connect with the table with a being called UMS. And it is the one who tries to give me information. He gives me the 13 messages of the quantum to expand them, to explain them to people who feel and want to listen, to have an evolution and a better world, whoever wants. And I learn. It was very difficult for me to understand that not everyone wants help. Not everyone asks you for it. You have to learn. You have to listen to the one who really asks you for help. The one who doesn't, you don't have to go for him or for anyone else. And that means that I don't penalize many people, because many people ask me, well, but then you are a penalizer, right? Yes and no. Not like what people think. I don't connect with any being and I hear a voice or I hear something and I repeat what they tell me, like many channelers do. How wonderful. I wish I could do that. I don't have that capacity and I have that gift. But thanks to the theme of the meditations of being able to have connected with the world of mineralogy, I connect with crystals, and through the celestial table, I have managed to connect with a being, but through those of minerals and the table. What is wonderful is that all this, as I told you, and going back to the beginning of the talk, when we have started on the one hand, it is wonderful, and on the other, sometimes it makes me sad, because as I told you, I am realizing it. And I don't know why this kind of work that we're doing is being so much more receptive to people, especially in the United States. People are also showing up in Australia, people in Canada. I would tell you people in Latin America too, not bad, but there's no way with people from Europe. It is very difficult with the mentality or with that consciousness within the deluded mind that exists in the old continent. And it's awful. But of course, you told me at the beginning, but life is very good in Spain, dear Melly, you know it.
And I definitely want to tell you something about hymology. By the way, I have it here on my phone, and maybe I will send it to you during the interview via WhatsApp so you can see it. I was swimming there in Benidorm, and suddenly I'm deep, and I feel something strange in my foot, something solid, and I take it out, and it was like an artifact. I don't know, it looks like they're a brick, but it's not a brick, and it's totally filled with, like, it's been there for hundreds of years.
But it's obviously unnatural. Am I going to send it to you during the course of the interview, if you have your phone lying around so you can tell me what you think I can do?
Notice that I live 15 minutes from Benidorm.
But I would be very interested if you saw what to see. I want to send it to you. Now you have the phone near you.
Here it is.
Let's have a look at this.
I got it.
Here's another one. Let's see.
See, I'm going to show it for people to see.
Oh, how good. How good that you are teaching it, or Key, I sent you 1 to 3 so that you can see that it is impossible, in my opinion, that is natural.
Clearly, this should be from the upper part, and where there's a hole serves as the lower part.
And what is it? And what do you think of all the sediment, the coral that has been bestowed upon him?
No. Coral, it can't be because there's no coral here. There's no coral here.
And what is it inside, which has obviously been under the sea for a long time?
Not what's inside, obviously.
It is.
What lies within is actually marine debris.
That's right.
Inside, yes, but outside, not quite. This was part of something for me. So now what?
And the geometry it has too.
Yes, you need to check if it's stone or ceramic or something else.
No, I simply brought it with me.
Well, you do.
I've thrown it on the floor several times and it still doesn't break.
You have to analyze it. It would be good to analyze it. The inside part is obviously from the time spent in the water, but the outside part is not.
Have you seen him before? What could be, right?
I haven't seen it before, but now this forms part of something important. So what now? But something that is this is evidently not natural. This is obviously not natural. How interesting. Let's see if you can analyze it. It would be good to be able to analyze it, huh?
I'm going to refer back to our previous interview about Antarctica. I can't recall if it was before or after our conversation that individuals like John Kerry mentioned it. Buzz Aldrin, the second person who supposedly walks on the moon, and many more went to Antarctica, and they all arrived with some fear, with some terror. What do you think? What do you think they saw there?
We can't be completely certain of what they saw, but what I do know for sure is that Antarctica is evidently much more complex and significant than what we've been told. Starting with even one's own, in quotes, planet, that is Antarctica, or the spherical planet, as they paint us. I think there is much more than all this. I have always said that for me there is much more water than we are told. If I have to talk about something, it is that there is much more water than land as they paint us on the maps. On the one hand, I increasingly question the spherical shape of the planet. I'm not getting into lands, into 100% planistic land issues, but because I believe that neither one nor the other, but what is the part that we know is more similar? I think of what the earthlings tell us, not the spherical Earth. So if this were more like a disk, what happens is that there's a lot more stuff behind the disk, below or above. Antarctica wouldn't be a continent at the bottom of the globe as they paint us, would it? So I believe more in what many say, the famous wall of ice circling the disk. But the key is not that. What did Aldrin or these astronauts or scientists see and fear? Obviously, it's not that the Earth is flatter or that they found a wall of ice, but what's really behind all this, right? There has been talk of many theories. It has been said that there are many beings from other civilizations behind that wall of ice. It has been said that some famous fallen angels are locked up there, the 120 fallen angels. There has been talk of many characters after the Second World War who went there organizing modern and different and unknown cities. What is clear is that more than terror of what they have been able to see, as if it were a real hell, is the terror or the fear of, first, not being able to explain the truth. Second, not being able to all the people that you see so much that love you and keep telling you, guys, they're not lying to you about practically everything. I can't explain or tell anything, and obviously in those places because of what I know and what they tell me. Not everything is beautiful and wonderful, and everyone is good and handsome and tall and blonde, but there is also a type, or there may be a type of beings or civilizations that are a little more complicated than we can know, to a point where in a conversation with some secret intelligence services, they told me that in this world we coexist 58 races when I told you before, no, we go down the street and we see people. And they all look the same to us. Maybe outwardly we all look alike, we're the same. But how about from the inside then? I think that people who have been lucky enough to be able to travel to these places, because you know that after the famous Antarctic Treaty in the 1950s, it is impossible for any civilian person to travel to Antarctica. Yes, they let you travel as far as the penguins and the whales and the little islands that are before the mainland, but little more, right? There are people who have managed to reach the McMurdo base, even some who have reached the Imuch base in Scott. A little more scientists, tourists, a little to give a little pleasantry to get people to shut up. But evidently, I know that there is much more, and that they are not going to tell us, because evidently, if they told us what is in Antarctica and other places, not only in Antarctica, also the Arctic, it is a very interesting topic that would be the center of that record. If we knew so many things that are really hidden from us, how?
Is it that no one apologizes for interrupting you, but how is it that no one talking about the Arctic? How is it that no one has decided to go to the Arctic with a compass until it takes you to the center of what is called the North Pole?
Because they can't either. It is also forbidden to cross the Arctic. They don't let you go either south or north.
Magnetic North.
You can't. It's forbidden. It's all militarized. You can't even get there.
Al, the reason it's militarized is so people don't get out of this cage.
Yes, from my point of view, it is first, for those who don't know the truth. Second, so that we continue in this cricket cage. And then, obviously, to continue with all this cartoon, all these games, and everyone happy with their house, their family, their work, their sports, their music, as you said, their vices, their hobbies. And that people go like this, while they are surely taking advantage of our energy and many other things.
You think the elite have access to these lands? We're going to call them extraterrestrials, and what we call extraterrestrial aliens, instead of coming from a planet far, far away, comes from other lands.
I think they have access to a certain point, but not too much to see the sensation, as Mel also told you at the beginning, is that there is a dome. A dome, in fact. There is no dome. There are different domes, one on top of another, in different fields. I mean, there's a lot more than we think, and we can get to the end of our dome, but we can't penetrate what's beyond. The research we have carried out gives the feeling that in each dome, what is pressure, density, vibration, and frequency are different. So if we tried to cross from one side of that dome to the other, we would almost practically disintegrate. Look, there's a famous project, a famous operation at the end of World War II. It was the famous IJAM operation in English, called the Great IJAM Leap of Admiral Bell, who then told us about the hollow earth and all those stories. There is something very interesting, because in the end, the official version is that, well, they were going to investigate with the entire fleet. In other words, an entire North American fleet with aircraft carriers, destroyers, cruisers, and more than 11,000 soldiers went to investigate 4 Nazis who had escaped and hidden in Antarctica. That, to begin with, doesn't add up anymore. But what I find most surprising is that those 11,000 soldiers died. They didn't come back, according to them. According to the official version, there were a lot of battles. And 4 Nazis loaded 11,000 military expert soldiers into those lands and never came back. So if there were Nazis and they took so many people, why don't you ever come back? The very official, unofficial version is that really the North American government, or the government that controlled the world, or the elite at that time, got to the dome, and yes, they had found one of the doors to penetrate the dome. And everyone died trying to cross over. I remember also talking to people from European services, secret intelligence in this case, and telling me, yes, but they do pass on the other side. And how is it that they do pass on the other side and we can't? Well, because on the other side, they have much more powerful technology than ours. And that technology allows them to pass. And we don't have it, even though they also tell us that militarily speaking. Today's elite or military who belong to their group are almost 200 years ahead, technologically speaking, of what they tell us. That would also get a little into the topic of the famous UFO administrations, that much of what we see in the sky, I would say, up to 90%, that is what powerful researchers say. And I was here a month ago in Benidorm, precisely in Benidorm. We did an event a month ago in Benidorm, in a hotel in Benidorm, with Johanan Diaz Vargas, Alejandro Zaleta, Roberto de Otolteca, Victor Ayala, with Willie Olsen, with me. we also did a special event to talk about these things. And we showed a lot of UFO images, both from Mexico and the United States. And the feeling is that perhaps more than 90% of what is seen is ours. We have much, much more advanced technology that they don't tell us. They don't tell us. Is there a famous case from now? I don't remember the name. You sure you remember it? And your listeners in America too? Now I can't remember the name 111, sir, who had worked in Area 51, who ran out of there and uncovered everything. What's his name?
Yes.
Sir, exactly. Why? They are clear examples. They are clear examples that there is a very powerful technology that we have that we are unaware of. Now, let's say it's 90% and the remaining 10%. No one knows, not even the elite themselves. Why? Because the elite itself cannot get off this planet is what they are yearning for. Many times they tell me, well, but the elite has everything. What is missing if they have everything? They themselves create the money. They create. They even control the climates. The climate is already practically controlled by them. We work with the Harveys, a lot of other things. What is missing from this elite? They need to get out of here. They want to get out of here, even control what is outside, because there are contacts with people from outside. Yes, there are. Are there pacts? Yes, there are. But important agreements are not given to them, such as being able to leave. They don't want them to leave here because they know they might be worse than themselves. We talk about our elite, so it's a very interesting topic. Mel, because the Hanjang expedition itself, it shows you that they sent a huge American army through the dome and came back, instead of 11,000, they came back 4. So here he gives you the demonstration that the elite can reach a certain point, as you asked me, but it cannot go any further than that.
You think there's a connection? In 1952, there were 2 sightings in Washington, D.C., where flying saucers flew over the Capitol. For 2 consecutive weekends, it seems to me that perhaps these same entities, whether they are ACES, whether they are, I don't know who they are, return to demonstrate and say, this is how far we can go, and there is nothing you can do.
Was it a warning? Yeah, that's the information we handle. It was a warning that evidently followed to the letter. Careful, because also, if you look, or at that time, when the famous nuclear tests began, especially in the Pacific. In other words, nuclear weapons, as they sell us, do not exist. So what are these nuclear tests? Really, what they have tried to do, both from above and above all from below, is to try to drill either the dome above or try to make a very large hole to penetrate the inner worlds, to the underworlds of the shamans. To the inner worlds, where there are other types of beings that, from the point of view, have been the nuclear tests of the 50s especially and 60s. Notice that it coincides with that sighting in Washington, D.C. of those UFOs to say, guys, where are you going? No, human beings are stubborn by birth.
But you mean Operation Fish Pow, which is a heavy operation where they tried to penetrate the dome?
Exactly. Operation Fistbull, and well on the famous Bikini Islands, in all the islands of the Pacific Ocean, where the famous fish Operation Fistbull was attempted. Yeah, it's a real symptom of everything that's going on. And notice that after that, a very interesting operation appeared, which was Operation Nimbus. Not many people know about Operation Nimbus. Operation Nimbus was to use Project Fistbull to try to create some kind of machines, some kind of laser weapons. But as I was saying, we have a much more advanced technology that has possibly been agreed upon with other types of more technological and advanced beings. With that Operation Nimbus 1, an attempt was made to use the tailstrokes of the fish tank Operation Fishbull. Trying to drill it with a laser was also unsuccessful. And now I'm going to tell you something, which is information that we have received from Europe, but that has more to do with the United States. I'm talking about Elon Musk. I'm talking about the Starlink operation. I'm talking about his 47 satellites that are going around the planet, whether it's round, square, triangular, it doesn't matter, telling us about a telecommunication system as it is. Well, the information I have is that they are not satellites. They are Operation Nimbus 2 again. Using SpaceX, using Neuralink, using Elon Musk's companies and whoever is behind him to try with all that to go to what we call stars that do not exist as such, but are energy points of the domes, especially of the one we have closest. The stars of the planets would not exist as they tell us, nor outer space. Don't ask me what's there. I don't know what's there, but what they tell us, I don't believe anything. Notice that Operation Starlight was to try to go to those energy points that we call stars, to try to make a hole and pierce them. It was very curious that right at the launch of Starlight, the most powerful, with 47 satellites, one after another, after a week, there were some famous people. Remember fires in Hawaii? When you look at the internet images the next morning of everything that happened in Hawaii, you say, wow, this was from fire, this was from burning. I mean, if they tell me that a nuclear bomb has exploded here, I believe it. When you see the images of Hawaii and the next morning you can't believe it was a fire, that was a bomb. What really happened, as our information tells us, is that in order for the Starline project or Nimbus 2 to be tested, it had to be tested below. Before testing it up, and Hawaii was used sending the lasers to Hawaii. A week after Hawaii, the Morocco earthquake occurred. After 2 more weeks, that of Turkey occurred, and after 3 or 4 more, that of Iran. It was all experiments from Nimbus 2, from laser machinery, and then trying to find those energy points in the dome and trying to jump and pass them. What happened? They have not been able to do it even with all that they have been able to do it. Look at a curious fact. Mel made me very curious when also those 2 very famous people in the United States, both Richard Branson from his Virgin Galactic and Jeff Bezos from his Blue Origin, who reminded you that a couple of years ago they did that work between quotes of theater of trying to make tourist flights from Virgin Galactic and from
Blue Origin is Virgin.
Exactly, launching several people directly into those rockets. What is very curious is that the 1 to 80 kilometers, and the other, I think that at the point of reaching 100 at the end, you see the curve of the rocket tower and it can't go anymore, and it has to go down again. They did not go into space because there is no space, as they tell us. Neither of them could go out. One was able to reach 80 kilometers, and the other, I think, didn't even reach almost or was close to 100. They couldn't, and there was the dome orbit again as the rocket goes up and down. And a lot of people ask me, well, but what about the satellites and the ISIS space station? And all of this inside the dome is all inside the dome 400 kilometers up. Because if we discuss science, and we talk about the famous Van Halen belt, which is what scientists always tell us is a very important limit, which many rockets or astronauts cannot pass. That's the dome. They've got it. They've got it. They've crushed it into a lie, calling it the Van Halen belt. But you can't get out. We can't get out, and everything they tell us is in space is not in space. It's in the mesosphere, which is the last layer that's inside the atmosphere, dear. Let's see. I'm talking to you about hypotheses. That is, I'm not talking about all this so that your listeners have to believe them 100%. We simply research, we travel, we look for ideas different from what is everywhere, and when later people, scientists, especially more officials, try to refute what you are researching and sharing, cannot refute you. In other words, in the same way as a flat earther today. I still can't prove that the earth is flat, forgive me, but neither can the globalist. Because of course, if you tell me it's not, that NASA shows us a lot of images from the Hubble bar or from the ISIS station or from total, gentlemen, computer systems and computer designs. Artificial intelligence today does real wonders that everyone can believe then, today. Neither one nor the other. No one has yet been able to demonstrate that it is one way or another. Well, imagine if we have this big problem within the very shape of the planet. Imagine everything else. NASA as a good frontis, as you say in English, a facade, an authentic frontis of many intelligence companies, many secret societies, many lodges. From within what the elite is, since it is a front for each of them, for what they need, what's the truth? Nobody knows what the truth is. What do lies show us? Well, it may be. But again, what I want you all to understand is that we don't want anyone to believe what we're saying. I just want you to see us as researchers who receive different types of data and information from different places that are very different from the official versions. And that sometimes, and at least in my case, I have received a lot of information. And I say, no, this doesn't add up to me. No, not this either. Oh, I find this interesting, and we only try to apply and explain and share in the case of information and data, which I really see that science itself cannot explain either.
And many people don't know that NASA, for example, is the world's largest consumer of helium-E. Have all these balloons been seen? What are you going? Several of them have fallen in a yard, and what you see is what it means to be a small satellite. With the balloon next to it, the satellites will be all those balloons that people are seeing.
I don't think everyone, I think there may be satellites, but not big ones. In other words, I believe that there are nanosatellites and microsatellites with motorization power to be able to reach a certain point. There may be, but most satellites are like the ones that fall, like the ones too long ago near the White House in Washington, D.C. Yes, most of them are like that. And then what I find incredible, look, Mel, what seems incredible to me? I don't understand how people don't notice. The White House is that it was a Chinese satellite. And that basically, if a Chinese satellite falls near the White House without any kind of jurisdiction, it is a spy satellite. If that had been true, don't tell me that at least a diplomatic altercation between the United States and China would have occurred. How can you see a Chinese spy satellite flying over the White House? No, if it had been true, if I had messed up a fat one. But what happened at 3 weeks and never anything?
Nothing in me. In my opinion, it was a happy satellite of ours that seems to be too visible, and the Chinese had to be blamed. But we have to take a pause, a moment. And when we come back, I want to dedicate this episode to ancient science, which is something you're going to discuss. What basic principles? The difference from modern science, which is a new concept to me. How can people learn more about you, your work, your research, what internet pages or social media you have?
Well, right now, and that's what I was telling you, we are making a third change, because until now, everything that was our social networks appeared with my name, with Karles Torah, Karles with Key Torah, like the Jewish holy book ending with H. And many on the networks in Europe also knew me as Mr. Tartaria, because we have talked a lot about Tartaria, and there have been a lot of mockery on the subject of that, and many people know me as Mr. Tartaria, although it has nothing to do with us.
And I want to talk about Tartary when we get back too, by the way.
Very well, and in the end, what we have done is make a decision, and right now our website was also karlestorah.com, but right now we are starting to make changes, which I think in a couple of weeks we will have everything changed. And both our website and our social networks are all going to come out as ums.com. That is MMSU double. ms8.com is going to be the website, and the social networks will come out as UMS. So from, I think, in a couple of weeks, and I think we're talking about the month of November, mid-November, end of November maximum, we'll be everywhere as UMS, because really, I feel that I am not important. I am simply a messenger, and the important thing is never the messenger, but the message. And I feel that the important thing about the message is UMS, which is that if you want also later, we can talk about exactly what UMS is, or the being behind UMS. And that's what has to prevail more than not my name or my person to you.
I was going to ask but you'll tell us when we get back. We have Karles Torah 1 hour more. Don't miss it.
Thank you for listening to the first part of this important VERITAS episode. To listen to the rest and access all of our exclusive material, head over to the Veritas Plus member section or click the subscribe button at veritasproject.com. Don't forget to visit the Veritas store for a range of great products, including focused life force energy. Experience the benefits with a 15-day free trial of FLFE today, no credit card required. If you'd like to get in touch with me, be a guest on the program, have a guest suggestion, or want to provide feedback, just click the contact button on our website at veritasproject.com. Thank you for listening to The Veritas Project, because you don't want to believe, you want to know.
Sin fin, donde el cielo brilla con otro matiz, que esconden del otro lado, que es lo que temen que podamos ver, civilizaciones de un tiempo olvidado, o tierras de un saber que nunca nos dieron a ver. Hablan de praderas que nunca se ven, seres antiguos que no tocan el viento, montañas de fuego, ríos de luz, donde el viento sopla y trae otra cruz, que esconden del otro lado, que es lo que temen que podamos ver, un paraíso perdido, el fin del pasado, un reino de sombra que debemos tener. Se atreva a ver. Nos dicen que todo está bajo control, mientras ocultan mundos bajo un mismo sol. ¿Qué pasa si un día el hielo se abre y vemos el suelo que nadie más sabe? ¿Será que hay mundos, tierras y reyes, reinos prohibidos que esperan leyes, que esconden del otro lado, que es lo que temen que podamos ver, un destino oculto, un viaje anhelado, una verdad que nos puede ver?